Great to have you along for the ride. Thanks a lot for stopping by. Glad to have this man back. He's an author. He's also the boss over the CO2 Coalition. And he's got is the new book called Convenient Warming? Is that what it's called, Greg?
Yeah, the title is A Very Convenient Warming. And then the subtitle, it's important, Joe, A Very Convenient Warming, How Modest Warming and More CO2 Are Benefiting Humanity.
You're not allowed to say that. You're not allowed to say that.
Yeah, I just did.
It is Gregory Wrightstone. He's been on the program many times. Go and get his books. Go and download his apps. Anything that you can do to give yourself some knowledge. Because the one thing you don't want to do when it comes to so-called climate change or global warming is just take one side's view. This guy's a geologist. He's a scientist. He knows what he's talking about, and you'll learn a lot. What's inconvenient for you, pun intended, was that you live in Tampa, in that area, and you had to skedaddle out of there, and then you went to a place on the East Coast of the Atlantic Coast, and then you saw a bunch of damage there. Tell me what you have dealt with for the past 24 hours.
Oh, my. Well, I'm living at Apollo Beach, which is about 15 miles south of Tampa Bay. And if you recall, that's about where the hurricane was supposed to hit.
Yes.
So it looked like we were going to be right in the crosshairs with 12-foot storm surges. And I said, and I talked to grizzled old Floridian veterans, old salts.
Right.
They said, Greg, we're getting out of here. I got a bad feeling. And so we go across the state, southeast to the Atlantic side. Bear in mind, Tampa's on the Gulf side, the western side. I said, well, I'll be, we might get Cat 1 type winds there, but at least we'll be safe. And so we go over there, and then at 4 o'clock to 5:30, the big tornadoes, there was an arm ahead of the storm. This is 4 hours before landfall. And it's really not been reported. And the three people that died at St. Lucie were just south of us. This Vero Beach was just clobbered.
I want to show Vero Beach. You sent me some video of this, and I want to show it to the people as you're talking. Go ahead. What am I looking at here? This is crazy.
You could just drive for miles and see this, and the buildings were spared from what I could see. I didn't see any homes that were destroyed. It was all the huge old live oak trees, and big palm trees were just toppled. These are beautiful, huge palms. There's coconuts everywhere because the storm knocked all the coconuts out of the palms that were still standing. And
I've got a longer one that I'll show. Go ahead.
Yeah, and so what happened was, I'm doing an interview with another fella just as this is hitting, and man, the lights are going out. There's thunder and lightning going. He says, "Oh, this is the best interview ever." He was loving it, and my wife's going, "This is," and she says, "Oh boy, we gotta, what can I do?" So we're stuck here. But it was, again, this was 4 hours ahead of landfall on the other side of the state.
Right.
It was intense. And they logged around 80 mile per hour gusts here. And then, of course, we had this swarm of tornadoes that came through. It was right along. Of course, if you're a fan of Jimmy Buffett, the highway A1A.
Oh, yeah.
That's what you're looking at. I'm driving A1A.
Crazy.
My wife was taking the video.
Right. It's Gregory Wrightstone. Go to his website. It's inconvenient. Say it again. Convenientwarming.com. Is that what it is?
Convenientwarming.com.
Convenientwarming.com. Because there was a different website last time. I want you to go and check out everything that he does. He's got the Inconvenient Facts book. Go and get that. Is the app still available? Inconvenient Facts?
It is, and we're in the process of updating it right now.
Good.
And it needs it. And so if you're looking for this book, and again, Joe, my birthday was last Thursday. I got up that morning and I logged in. The book was at #1 bestseller on my birthday. I mean,
wow.
I told my wife, you don't have to get me anything. I just got the best present ever. So if you just search for those two words, convenient warming, you could find it on Amazon or buy it directly from my website.
Go and get it, because people are starving for information about what's real and what's not real. Immediately you had people in central government, the vice president who's running for president, talking about, I don't know if you saw this, but she was telling the guy on the Weather Channel, Mike, that we should watch the language we use, that if the hurricane goes from a 5 to a 4, we shouldn't say that because it makes it sound like it's weaker. Now, I grew up in South Florida. I grew up in Hurricane Alley. A 4 is weaker than a 5, and a 3 is weaker than a 4, and a 2 is weaker than a 3. I don't know what they're trying to do at government, but I kind of wish on both sides they'd shut up and just go with the facts. So the idea, what did you? I don't know if you saw that because you guys are in the middle of the storm.
I did not.
But she literally told the guy live on the Weather Channel we should mind our language when talking about hurricanes because it sounds like when we degrade the number, it degrades the strength. And Greg, I'm going, dude, I was 5 years old in kindergarten learning that that's exactly what it means. Yeah. So the misinformation, disinformation is no better today than it's been since we first met. It's worse.
It's worse than that. And we at the CO2 Coalition, we've got nearly 200 experts, scientists, physicists, and we have several top meteorologists. One of those was Joe Dalio, and some other meteorologists. They were all telling me the same thing. This thing is going to be, it's not going to be a dud, but it's not going to be the horrific storm. Most of them were telling me, if it's going to come on shore, it's going to be a low Cat 3, maybe even downgraded to a high Cat 2.
Right.
And it's just, they said this is going to happen. It's just going to happen. And the other thing that they were telling me, Greg, nobody's talking about it. They're talking about this huge, at the point of landfall, the Weather Channel was saying that Tampa Bay was going to expect 12-foot huge storm surges. And they were telling me, no, there's going to be the bay is actually going to drop. And that's exactly what happened. The winds blew the water away from Tampa and it lowered. There wasn't a storm surge. There was an anti-surge that was, and so the level at Tampa Bay was actually lower than what it normally is.
Well, let me interject this because again, I learned about hurricanes early. I'd never heard of a reverse storm surge, which is what we saw last night in Tampa Bay. And you said that you were expecting that. I'd never seen that before. But this is how dumb it gets. On X and on other social media, people are saying, oh, no, there's a reverse surge. That means a tsunami is on the way. Greg, I kid you not, they were predicting a tsunami.
Yeah, these people, they have no, it angers me, Joe. It really does.
Yeah, it's dangerous.
It's dangerous. And what it's going to do is lead, when we do have something really dangerous coming at us, and it looked bad, but they were telling me, no. I'm glad I evacuated. Well, maybe not to Vero Beach.
Right. What was that?
I'd have gone to Georgia or someplace. But the same thing happened with Hurricane Ian. We saw the same thing with the and the Ian came through south of Tampa. Right. And we had the winds were sweeping away from the eastern shore and away from Tampa. And so it was kind of funny when I moved here. Everybody told me, "Oh, don't worry about hurricanes. Tampa never gets hit." And here I am, get 2 in 2 weeks after moving, being here for 4 months.
Right. It is Gregory Wrightstone. Get this book. It's called A Very Convenient Warming, How Modest Warming and More CO2 Are Benefiting Humanity. Go and get the book right now, convenientwarming.com. Greg, I'm just going to ask you directly. Did something that human beings are doing cause Helene and Milton in such close proximity to hit the United States?
That is so patently false. It is just, I've heard that. I heard InfoWars, Alex Jones spouting this complete nonsense. I heard Marjorie Taylor Greene spouting the same, just absolute. They embarrass themselves.
So nobody in government has the ability to direct or strengthen storms to go and mine lithium in North Carolina, right?
Correct. It's scientifically impossible for them to do it. And we have I contact Roy Spencer, Dr. Roy Spencer, University of Alabama, Huntsville. I was in communication with him during this time, and I asked him, how can I fight back against this? And he went through a scientific explanation of how it's impossible to steer a storm or to really do much of anything to either intensify or slow it down. And we get it's the same crowd that believe in chemtrails. They're not chemtrails. They're jet trails, and it's water vapor you see. But it's the same crowd. It's a government conspiracy. HARP in Alaska caused the Hawaii fires, and they steered the fire right through Lahaina. No, this is these group of conspiracy theories. I mean, I'm a really big, I'm I'm not in favor of all with government and what they
Right.
do a lot of bad things, but
Right.
this is one of them.
Well, I'm a conservative guy, and I'm not buying into these conspiracies either. I'm always open-minded to see what they're saying, but then when they say it, well, let me talk to an expert, and I can always get the truth from you. When it comes to these hurricanes, and again, my history growing up in South Florida, I was playing football in 1978 in the middle of Hurricane David. I've covered many hurricanes as a news anchor and a reporter. I tend to know something about them. Greg, I don't feel in my 58 years on this earth that hurricanes are getting more intense. I know that our scientific technology has gotten better. So we're able to actually go back to the 70s and the 60s and even further back. And now we can measure the data and say, well, those actually were stronger than we thought they were back then. And they're not any stronger now. So the claim that they're intensifying because you and I drive gasoline vehicles, is that true?
No, it's not. And it's not just me saying this. It's NASA, it's NOAA, which is the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration. It's the Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change. They all agree that with me that they're not intensifying, they're not increasing in number, and we can document that going back from since 1979 with the satellite era. We know every single hurricane, and we can watch it, and we can see it, and so we can count that, and we can look at that going back to 79. And we see you could probably argue that there's been a slight decline, but let's just say there's no increase, no trend either way. But we also have what's really important we have a way to measure hurricanes in the United States going back to 1850 accurately, and that's landfalling hurricanes. And that's because whenever a hurricane going back to 1850 made landfall in the United States, they knew it. They're hard to miss.
Yeah, they are.
We know every single hurricane that's made landfall. And I took a look recently in our newsletter. Sign up for that at the CO2 Coalition if you'd like. In my last newsletter, I took a look at landfalling hurricanes in Florida to find they've been in decline. And again, that goes back to 1850. And we see that across the United States. The only state that has had a slight increase in landfalling hurricanes was Mississippi, and that was very small.
Interesting.
And so we look at that, and you talk about intensification of storms. Christopher Landsea is, he was until I believe he resigned a few years ago, but he had a very good study on the intensity of hurricanes. He concluded that hurricanes have intensified by 1%. Or that's the intensification. Well, Joe, okay, let's say he's right. Are you going to know the difference between 130 and 131 miles per hour?
No.
If you're standing at Key Largo? No.
But Greg, you have to understand, central government wants to spend $31 trillion to solve that 1% issue, if that's even true. What's interesting to me as well is, I remember in 2000 covering hurricanes. It was a very busy season. 2005 after Katrina, and I think you might have had Hurricane Rita or something that year too. There was another big one. They were saying this is going to be, from now on, this is what it's going to be. And we're going to have 18 or 19 named storms the next year. Nothing like that happened. We had a lull in hurricanes for years in this country, yet they kept on filling our heads with this garbage that somehow we had to stop, eating meat. The whole thing is weird to me. Why do you think so many people fall for it? And why do they keep on laying on it in a campaign? And again, I won't call out specific names and ask you, who's good and who's bad. But there are politicians who are running on the fact that if you don't elect me, we're going to existentially stop existing because of climate change.
Yeah, it's really troubling. And some of the Republicans, the GOP, they don't know how to talk about climate change. And I get it's complicated. They don't know what to believe and what not.
I think they're afraid to. I think they're afraid to because they're going to be called out.
Yeah, they're being called science deniers. Nobody wants to be called a science denier.
Oh no way.
And so they're using this to gain votes. And it's as a scientist, it just angers me greatly that we should be following the scientific method. And Joe, they need to silence scientists like me and my colleagues at the CO2 Coalition, because we tell a compelling fact-based story, a narrative that's completely at odds with this notion of man-made catastrophic global warming. If they allowed us a platform on the regular media shows, and not that you're not regular media, but if the mainstream media, if they allowed us to speak, it would be game over for the climate industrial complex. It would be, because almost every single person, Joe, I talk to, look at me with their eyes. I've never heard that.
Right.
Why aren't we being told that? they're thirsty for this information that we
Right.
present.
In one of the debates, and it's Gregory Wrightstone, go and get his book. It's called A Very Convenient Warming, How Modest Warming and More CO2 Are Benefiting Humanity. Go to convenientwarming.com. In one of the debates, I think it was the one between Trump and Harris, the so-called moderator, who was actually on the side of Harris, in my opinion,
Yeah,
said,
Nora O'Donnell.
it was Nora O'Donnell. Right. Nora O'Donnell. This was actually the vice presidential debate, I think. She said,
Yeah.
the vast consensus of scientists agree climate change is real. You and I have talked about this over the years. It's a consensus of who they asked. It's not really a consensus of all scientists, because I don't think they've asked all scientists. But how do you, if you're in a debate situation and somebody says 97% of all scientists agree, there's a consensus that it's real. How do you combat that?
Well, I can tell them I'm part of that 97% because they cast a wide net to get to 97%. And I would be part of that because I believe that CO2 is increasing. It's because of us, and it has a slight warming effect on the atmosphere. Bam, I'm part of the 97%. I just don't believe it's the primary driver of temperature changes, nor do I believe that it's harmful. On the other hand, we see huge benefits to more CO2. In fact, one of our unofficial motto is "We love CO2, and so should you." And we look at if you look at in my new book, if you look, I've listed my favorite quotes concerning consensus, and we should look at, for example, Michael Crichton famously said, the author, he was actually PhD, he's a doctor of medicine, and he said, if it's science, it's not consensus. If it's consensus, it's not science. The quote that I love, though, is from physicist Richard Feynman, who said, I would rather have questions that can't be answered than answers that can't be questioned.
I love it.
And that's what we have here in the climate debate. They're telling us what the answer is, and you dare not question it. You dare not.
Greg, I'm almost out of time, but you taught me this a long time ago, and just give me 30 seconds on this. What you said in passing just now is so extremely important to those watching and listening. It's okay that 97% agree something's happening. What isn't okay is they're trying to tie that to it being bad, and it's not necessarily bad.
No. 2 words, Joe: fear and control. They're using fear to have you agree to have every aspect of your life controlled. What car you drive, how you heat your home, what temperature to heat or cool your home, you name it. We can go down a list. It's fear and control.
It's exactly what it is, and I've learned that from you for a long time, and I think we've agreed on that for a long time. Convenientwarming.com. Get the new book, convenientwarming.com. It's Gregory Wrightstone. Greg, thanks a million. I'm glad you guys are safe. Thank you.
Thank you, Joe.
All right, brother. We'll talk soon. We're back after this. Stay right here.